Hi, everybody. Eric Telford from the Franklin Center, and hopefully being joined by Rob Bluey from Heritage and Alexander Marlowe from Breitbart News, if they could please join me on the stage. Thank you all for being here tonight. It's a distinct honor of ours to be able to present these awards. Andrew Breitbart's quest for the truth served as an inspiration to countless people across our country. It had a profound impact on those of us at the Heritage Foundation and the Franklin Center. That's why we've been committed the last 3 years to honoring Andrew's legacy and honoring those who carry the torch of the movement that he started. We're excited to announce this year's third annual Breitbart Awards presented by the Heritage Foundation and Franklin Center. Awards will be presented in the following categories: citizen journalism, blogging, and full-time reporting. We come together tonight to honor Andrew's legacy, but also to recognize those who continue it. Those qualities that he exhibited in each and every day of his life, including an indomitable quest for truth, a tireless pursuit of accountability, the courage to fight seemingly insurmountable odds, and an enduring journey to empower others with the deeply held belief that more voices are always better than less, and that more voices lead to greater accountability and greater citizen engagement. Tonight, it's my honor to present the Andrew Breitbart Award for Citizen Journalism to Mark Nugent. Mark, if you would join us on the stage, please. Pose. Thank you. Mark is a contributing editor to Red Maryland, the premier blog of conservative news in the Free State, Maryland, which has been voted one of the best state political blogs by the Washington Post 2 years in a row. He's also a contributor to his writing has appeared in the Baltimore Sun, the Washington Examiner, and National Review Online. Mark holds a special place in our heart at the Franklin Center because he is also the editor of our Watchdog Wire Maryland website, a portal that we use to empower citizen journalists to report news about their state and local communities. As though that's not enough, in his spare time, he also hosts the radio show The Broadside on a weekly basis. Living in Baltimore, Mark was inspired to get involved in citizen journalism by the shocking lack of scrutiny in our electoral process. He began by covering the campaign of now Governor Martin O'Malley, later shifting to investigate the governor's climate change initiatives and the organizations supporting them and the funding behind them. He started scrutinizing the ever-growing state budget and the tax and regulatory policies that were leading people to leave his state. Mark could have left too, but in the spirit of Andrew Breitbart, he decided to stay and fight against very overwhelming odds and powerful interests. I'll conclude before Rob and Alex present the final awards by reading a brief excerpt from Mark's review of Andrew's book, Righteous Indignation. Andrew Breitbart is the William F. Buckley Jr. of Generation X. He is standing athwart history yelling, "Stop." More importantly, he is empowering us to stand and fight with him. Mark exhibits that each and every day, and I think the title of his review, Walking Towards the Fire, seems very fitting tonight. Mark, we thank you for walking towards the fire by dedicating your passion, skills, and time toward the mission of taking on waste, fraud, abuse, and bad policies in the state of Maryland. You could easily walk away, you could easily spend more time with your family, more time at your job, but you don't. You fight tirelessly in a state, or a city, Baltimore, in a state that is certainly overwhelming odds. You do it each and every day, and we thank you for everything that you give. We thank you for all that you contribute to the Franklin Center and to the movement more broadly. It's my honor tonight to present him with the Andrew Breitbart Award for Citizen Journalism and to turn things over to Rob Bluey for our next award. Thank you.
Congratulations, Mark. A well-deserved honor. Certainly, as I think we look out at what our country is facing, the citizen journalists who are making those sacrifices and do have full-time jobs, we need more people like Mark doing that in the States. So thank you. We can't just be paying attention to what's happening at the federal level, but also at our state level as well. And that brings me to our next honoree tonight. The recipient of the Andrew Breitbart Award for blogging is one of the most passionate conservatives and most tenacious bloggers that I've ever met. I'd like to invite John Fleischman to the stage. Thank you, Stan. So I was recounting with John the first time I really got to know him. I was actually in my previous job at Human Events, and it was when I was working there, a colleague of mine today, Tim Chapman, and I decided to create this weekly meeting called the Bloggers Briefing. Many of you have attended the Bloggers Briefing, weekly meeting we were doing back then every Tuesdays. Stephen O'Connor is here tonight. Stephen is somebody who is initial supporter of that as our publisher of Human Events, and we wanted to reach beyond the Beltway. So we were in the conference room of the Eagle Publishing offices over on at Massachusetts Avenue. We filled about 12 people, and we said, who out there in the States is actually doing this kind of blogging work that we can bring in by phone? And John was somebody that was recommended, I believe, by John Gizzi, our political editor at Human Events at the time. And so we invited John to join us for our Tuesday meetings. And at the time, we would bring in, politicians, people who were trying to reach bloggers at a time when bloggers, were still trying to gain kind of the recognition and credibility that they deserved. And so I remember distinctly this time that we had Rick Santorum as a speaker. Now, Rick Santorum was running for re-election as the senator of Pennsylvania back in 2006. And was it 2 years earlier, I believe, Arlen Specter was running for re-election as a Pennsylvania senator, and Rick Santorum decided to support Arlen Specter. Well, this didn't sit well with John, even as far away as California, and on the conference call, Rick Santorum is fielding mostly friendly questions from the audience it's in the room with him, and here comes John Fleischman over the phone, dropping the F-bomb and other other inappropriate language. But the one thing that I think it demonstrated was the courage and like I said earlier, the tenacity that he has. You don't really mess around with John Fleischman. And John, I think, as most of you know, runs the Flash Report, which is the website in California. It started as an email newsletter covering California politics and has become a really influential site in the state. In fact, Congressman Darrell Issa has said that John is the Matt Drudge of California politics for his work. So John covers, has done a variety of things since he got into politics, which happened back in college, and along the way he's overcome several battles, including cancer himself. So he's had a lot of triumphs along the way in terms of the campaigns at the ballot boxes and in his own personal life. I wanted to close by reading this part of the story from the Los Angeles Times, which chronicled the influence that the Flash Report has and John has in California, and it recounts the story from 2007 of a budget debate that was happening with Governor Schwarzenegger. And an aide to Governor Schwarzenegger is quoted in the piece as saying this about a piece that John had put up on the Flash Report as the deal, this bipartisan deal, was being announced. And he's quoted as saying, "I knew as soon as I saw John's post go up on the deal that it would collapse. Here we were in the biggest state in the union, and important policy was being dictated by a blog post at midnight." And the author of that article goes on to say, "Torpedoing bipartisan compromise and shredding political moderation are among Fleischman's most cherished goals. His online compendium of news, gossip, commentary, and advertising has become a virtual bonfire where the state's conservative faithful gather to gird for battle." So with that, I think John is a deserving recipient of the Andrew Breitbart Award and carrying on Andrew's legacy. Please join me in congratulating him. I'll now turn it over to Al. Did you want to say something?
Well, really quick. I wanted to just say one thing very quick, which is that I'm happy to receive this award, but I receive it on behalf of so many great colleagues that I've met who do what I do, and so this award's for everybody. I happen to have with me, this will shock you, a quote from Andrew that I wanted to read because I thought it was very appropriate. It's from one of his books, but it reads, "Walk towards the fire. Don't worry about what they call you. All of those things are said because they want to stop you in your tracks. But if you keep going, you're sending a message to people who are rooting for you, who are agreeing with you. The message is that they can do it too." Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alex Marlowe. I'm the editor-in-chief of Breitbart and Breitbart News, and I was also Andrew Breitbart's first hire. And I got to get a little juice for that, right, first? And on behalf of the Breitbart family, thank you to the Franklin Center and to Heritage putting on a wonderful event, seeing so many distinguished faces in a really classy setting. Andrew always enjoyed a big party, so it's up to all of you guys to have as good of a time as possible, or you're not really honoring him and you didn't really get him. Breitbart's expanded a lot this year, but we started in the humblest of beginnings. It was two guys, a business partner, and Andrew, and me, Alex Marlowe. I just graduated from UC Berkeley, and we converted Andrew's basement playroom for his kids. He had at least 4, I lost track at some point, into an office, and that's where Breitbart started, and that's where Andrew started his plan to take over the world, or save the world, as to quote his book cover. And the person who's receiving the Breitbart Award for professional journalism tonight is someone who also started from humble beginnings. He was a guy who grew up in a tobacco city, a tobacco town, if you will. It's hard to call it a city when there's only one stoplight. Ironically, there were 14 stoplight cameras already. So for some reason, I'm not quite sure how that worked out. And he's gone on to become, without a doubt, one of the most influential newsmen on planet Earth. He started out in journalism inauspiciously as a union scab for the Detroit News. He actually walked himself across a picket line to get to his first media job. And then he eventually worked up to become a congressional correspondent for the Washington Times and then the Washington bureau chief for the New York Post. In 2008, after writing an article that shocked Washington, he actually wrote that, I know, good thing that most of you are sitting, he wrote that Barack Obama was not interested in winning wars in the Middle East. I know that would come as a shock. This was deemed so offensive to our president, then Senator Obama, that he was kicked off of his press plane, arguably the greatest achievement in what is an illustrious career. Now this man's a contributor to the Drudge Report. He's a columnist for the Washington Times, which we syndicate over at Breitbart, and you know him from his frequent appearances on Fox News. But he is truly an unsung hero of the movement so far. He had so much in common with Andrew, even beyond their remarkably similar resumes and their steadfast patriotism. They both have many children. They both have wild and unruly manes of hair. And they both put having a good sense of humor ahead of all else. Just today, when I told the winner of the award that I'd be introducing him, he promptly requested that I pick him up and ferry him to the museum in my rickshaw. I do not own a rickshaw. But most importantly, these men are connectors. They're fun and gregarious and willing to engage anyone of all political stripes. And our winner tonight, like Andrew, wakes up every day and looks to advance his values, our values, outside of the conservative bubble. A true happy warrior who dedicates his life to using great stories, hard facts, and the occasional joke to gleefully screw with the left. It's my honor to introduce the Breitbart Award winner for professional journalism, Charlie Hurt.
I will make this brief. It's such an honor to be to get an award named for a guy who was such an extraordinary original. And thinking about what Greg said earlier and what Alex said, I think that when conservatives look around today, there's a lot to be depressed about. People. I think that it's explainable. Conservatives have taken math classes. They've taken history courses. They've seen this movie before, and it doesn't end well. And there's a lot to be depressed about. But the thing that I always loved the most about Andrew, whether he was confronting an angry mob or some lunatic with a bullhorn, was that even though he inspired a lot of hatred, it was always clear where the hatred was coming from in those situations, and it was never coming from Andrew. He was truly a happy warrior, and I can't think of a better, higher compliment to pay him than to say that. And I think it is a lesson that we can all learn, because we need a lot more happy warriors fighting for the conservative cause. So thank you very much. I'm honored.
Thank you all again for being here. We'll close out these awards, I think, by echoing the comments that have been made by so many people tonight, by Charlie just now, by Greg earlier, about the wonderful and lighthearted spirit that Andrew brought to everything. A few of my favorite stories are, you mentioned the rollerblading. What he had told me he had done after that is he rollerbladed by these liberal activists and said, "We're going to Applebee's." And he told me, and they all followed me. And we sat there and we talked for 2 hours, and they're really not that unreasonable. And he enjoyed it. He came when I was at Americans for Prosperity to Cancun with us one time to protest a UN conference. Not a bad work assignment to have, but I remember some people from Think Progress confronted him, and he brought them to the bar, and he was there for like 3 hours, and he came back and he said, "You know, those are good guys. I don't agree with them, but they're good guys." And my favorite story of Andrew was the night before Right Online, when a few weeks leading up, he called and said, "We need a dunk tank." I said, "What?" He said, "I want to sit in a dunk tank opposite Netroots Nation and have people pay to dunk me, and we'll give all the money to the troops." I said, "Well, I don't know if the hotel will let us." Of course they didn't. I let him know. He seemed disappointed, didn't hear anything more. A couple weeks later, 1 in the morning, the night before the conference, I get a phone call, and it's Andrew. "Inflatable bouncy room." What? "We need an inflatable bouncy room, right versus left, or right meets left. We all bounce together. And this is really important. You need to go to Kinko's, and the sign has to say that. We bounce together." I said, "Well, I don't know if we can do that, Andrew. I can try, but I don't even know where to get a bouncy room." "Okay, well, try. Let me know." Of course, that never worked out, but he was always so generous, so accommodating, reaching out to his most hostile enemies. I think it's very fitting that we conclude tonight's dinner after our final speeches with a party, because I think that's something Andrew would have really enjoyed. So if everybody could just raise a glass to Andrew, I know he would be so proud to see the people in this room carry on his legacy. He was always about more voices, not less. To Andrew Breitbart and to all of us continuing his great work. Thank you.